Okay, hi everybody, and hi at home who's watching the Zoom. Today's audio day, and it's going to be quick because the equipment for audio is much less difficult to learn and to talk about. Extremely important, though. Doesn't matter how good your footage is, if the audio is bad, you have to then redo all of the audio and post. And we're actually going to do a little bit of that. Somebody who has not been here before, what is it when we re-record characters' voices in post-production? What do we call that? Yeah. Dubbing is the layman's terms, but it is technically correct. But there are two terms for filmmakers that are used that are better. Yeah. ADR, automated dialogue replacement. And then what do actors primarily call it? No, that's a different thing. We'll talk about that in a minute. Yeah. Looping. So, and the reason why it's called looping is that the actors will go into a sound booth and they'll watch the screen of themselves and they'll watch it on loop. So the scene will play over and over and over again. They hear how they set it the day of recording, and then it continues to loop and it goes silent, and then they record. And there's the series of beeps, and they get the timing down so they know when the scene's going to start. And so that's looping. It's the same thing as ADR. They just two different terms for the same thing. And then if we are going to record the sounds, not the actors' voices, but the sounds, what is that called? Foley. Yeah, that and we'll do some of both today. We're going to do a short Foley and a short ADR session on the same scene. Let's learn the equipment first. So this semester, we're going to primarily, not exclusively, but primarily use two types of microphones. The first one is called what? Shotgun mic. Why shotgun? Yeah, I guess. Yeah, it's incredibly directional, more directional than I think any other microphone. So later on, when we get the boom out and we actually start doing it, I'll show you that if the microphones like this, my voice sounds really good. If you start to do that, it sounds bad. If you do that, it's absolutely unusable. And I've been watching over the last few weeks where someone who's booming is not always paying attention, and there'll be mic drift. So it starts to go out of because they're not paying attention, or they can't get the shock mount to go in the direction they want. And this, I'm telling you, I'm going to make you put on some headphones and hear the difference between that and that. This sounds like I'm on the other side of the room, and it's echoey and sounds awful. And this is clean and pretty and great. So they're incredibly directional. Yeah. It does record some audio along the shaft, but the vast majority of it comes through the tip of the mic. And the longer the shotgun mic, the more directional it is. So I think I have 8 shotgun mics. I have one that is 24, one is 18, this is 12, this is 9, and 12 and 9 are the ones I keep in the case because I use them most often, but then I have others as well. So shotgun mics. What's the other mic that we've used? Those of you who've either watched at home and seen the shoots, or those of you who've been there, what other mics have we used besides the shotgun mics? Lavaliers. And I like you, Santi, because you pronounced it correctly. No, that's not correct. So it's tomato. When I was in school, the instructor I had, who works in the industry, incredible sound mixer, he always called it lavaliers, and he made fun of anyone who said lavalier. Tim, when he was down at San Diego, his instructor called it lavalier. And so It's how we learned it. There's no difference. Just know that I'm going to call it a lavalier and Tim will call it a lavalier. And if you say lav, you means you like me more, and if you say lav, you like Tim more. So, but here's the mic. Tiny. In fact, this has a clip and a kind of a protective tip on it. The mic is actually even smaller than that. And we will attach this to some piece of clothing, or if we're shooting a scene in a film, often tape it to the chest. Right at the cleavage is the best spot. Now, what are some problems? So, well, first of all, I'll tell you, it's incredibly good for recording human voices. It's designed for that. It's great. You get it right near the sound box, so kind of pointed towards the throat and mouth, and it's right there. So it picks up human voices really well, but they're not perfect mics. Why? Yeah.
Because they're extremely sensitive and you get rustling all of the time.
Yeah, so we do a lot to protect for that. So we don't want to put it on a place, like I wouldn't put it on my shoulder because there's a lot of movement there. There are places on the body that you can put it where clothes touch less often. Also, we have covers for the lavs that cover the mic and help deaden or eliminate some of that sound. So whenever we can, we try to use those. They can be a little bulky, and if it's tight clothing, sometimes it'll stick out, but when we can, we use that. So we got to always be listening for sound of clothes, and that is the job of the mixer, who always has headphones on and listens. Often, the rustling doesn't matter, even if it's picking it up. Why? Yeah, the only thing we record that matters is the actor's lines. If there's lots of rustling, I stop and say, "Oh, that was great," and I rustle and rustle again. No problem, as long as I got the line, because all of the other audio will be recorded by the boom, the shotgun mic. So this is a dialogue microphone. So we'll be using these a lot. You need to know how to set them up. I have two different kinds. They're both Sennheiser. The ones that I'm using more often are batteries. So the AA batteries, you open the case, power it up right here. If they say the battery's low, you just turn it off and then pop out the two batteries and put them in. They probably will go all day long without need of replacement. So if the batteries are charged in the morning, we're good to go. I see a piece of gaffer's tape on this, probably because there's a light and it's covering that. And then we have to remember that there is a transmitter and a receiver, and they're not interchangeable. The transmitter has the mute button and the mic line input, and the other one has the AFI or AF out. So one goes into the mixer, the other one is on the actor in a pocket, on a belt, something like that. Any questions about the lavs? Nope. Okay. Let's see. What other microphones have we used that those of you who've been here, if it hasn't been a lav or a shotgun? So here's a boom. How does this mic somebody?
Set it up and then kind of point it at the direction where the game is taking place or whatever, to gather either a dialogue or like ambient sound.
How does this record? So my question was, what other types of microphones? I've been talking about the shotgun mics. And with the shock mount, they attach to the boom. So the purpose of the boom is to be able to extend the microphone a longer distance, and maybe hold it above frame or below frame and not be in the way of the camera. And
So it's
microphone holder, yeah, it's to extend the microphone, but this is not an actual microphone.
okay.
Okay, so what other microphones have we used? Alex, do you use these when you make your music? Why not? Yeah, so we do have condenser mics. I always have 3, 4, 5 of them in the case. And we will often use those for different types. When we record concerts or plays or different things, we'll use different types of microphones. On a film set, we use them less often, but we can use them. So, yeah,
What's the mic on the camera count for BTS?
yeah, but it technically is a shotgun mic. It's just not extended with a boom. It's directional, and it's pointing in the direction that the lens is. So, but why are the Red has microphones too? Why are camera mics bad? The closer you can get the mic, the better. So you want the microphone, if the camera was there filming me, the microphone, I'm looking at myself here on the monitor. Well, sure, but I mean, it might be as close as that, because I can't see the microphone at home. Now, the tip is very coming in. So actors have to get used to this. Very quickly know that that is not all that uncommon, and I'm not being rude. They just know that we do this. And you have to start crying. You know, tell a joke with the microphone right in your face. It's very, very common to do this. And those of you who've been in the acting class, no big deal, because we've been doing it for so long. But it's funny because a lot of times we'll hire theater actors to come act in our films, and suddenly there's a mic right in their face and they get uncomfortable. They get used to it, but at first. But yes, we want the microphone as close as we can get it, as long as it's out of frame. So the camera's not that far away, so this wouldn't be terrible. But we could definitely get it closer. Why else is using the microphone on the camera bad? Well, the closer you get the mic to you, to the actor, the better. And so you can definitely get closer than the camera. But I mean, if we were, oh, I'm sorry at home, this is probably awful for you, but if we were filming me this close, it's pretty close. So now why is that bad? That's still not a mic that I would want to use. So, yeah.
It's camera's supposed to record visual audio, but it's supposed to record just audio.
You're right in theory, for sure. But this camera is recording audio, and the Red even records audio. I use it for scratch track, so I can.
Focus is visual.
Yeah, so the quality, especially on the Red, which is designed as purely a scratch track, is not as good as the F8. So the sample rate is much lower. The quality won't be as good for sure. But there's still even more reasons. Camera operators should know this. Jason, Daniel. Why would we not want the microphone on the camera? I mean, I could put this very nice Sennheiser, attach it to the camera. Why is that bad? Yeah, Baron. You know, that in part, I guess it could draw more power. But we're talking about the quality of the sound, yeah.
Because of the noise.
Yeah, cameras make a lot of noise. And there's, first of all, there's handling noise. Those of you who mixed so far, you can hear the boom operators when they make an adjustment on the boom. It sounds, sometimes it's like, what is that noise? It's like an earthquake or, I mean, it can sound really loud. Well, Jason can't take his hands off the red. He's fondling it all the time. Pulling focus and moving things around and making adjustments. You can hear a quick adjustment on the tripod. You can hear every little thing, all that handling noise shows up. Plus, if you, we never do this in film, but if you do any kind of zooming, all of that makes noise. But there's humming and a lot of noise. The quality recording on a camera is just not as good. So we use the F8. We use an external recorder. So I'm going to pull out the one that we use this semester. I've owned 9 of them. I've owned, I think, 5 Tascams, a Korg, and a few others. None of them have compared to the F8. It's my favorite. The Zoom F8. Can someone grab a stinger and a power strip for me? There's a power strip on top of that right there. That stinger, will that be able to pull through? Oh, okay, thank you. Okay, some things to know about the F8. One of the cool things is that it's both can run on DC power and battery. So the DC power, if that's ever an option, we always go with that. That's right here. Ideally, we plug it into a power strip, which is a surge protector. And then if we need to, the release is here. And the battery cartridge is right here. It holds 8 AA batteries. How long has the AA's? It's pretty much all day, right? It's about a day of recording. Fresh AA batteries, 8 of them, go all 8 all day. I like to keep fairly new batteries in there, so if we ever lose power, it doesn't shut down because we don't have to rejam. But we have battery and DC power. To turn it on, the bottom, and if you haven't done this, you should come in the spot where you can see it. But the bottom left corner, you hold that until it turns on. The green light lights up, and then the screen opens up. So it is now on. Right now, there are no channels turned on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. If I hit the button and the red light turns on, that means it's on. And I have the level high, but I'm not getting any levels because I don't have a microphone in it right now. For the sake of this, we're going to do one of these shotgun mics. And this wasn't rolled properly, so someone will get an earful later. I'm not saying it was you. So 1, 2, 3, 4 XLR inputs. That's why it's the F8, because it has 8 XLR inputs, but I'm going to plug it into one right there. To plug it in, you just push it in, line up the 3 pins. There's a release on top to pull it out. And again, I don't have a level because the XLR is not plugged into a microphone. So Okay, so, I probably should be getting levels now. I am. You can see that there are levels on the F8. What are the cables that we use, for audio?
XLR.
XLR. And XLR cables are pretty sensitive. Actually, they're expensive. I have to buy them all the time because if you toss them, like to spread them out, they can bang and then they will not clip into the mics all the way. We oftentimes will start to get buzz in them, if they're not treated or wrapped, correctly. So we want to take care of them. We'll talk about the over-under technique. Just let you know that I had a friend who got out of film school and got his first job on set. It was a Hollywood film. And he got a cable and he started wrapping it around, you know how some people roll cables, and he got fired. The audio mixer came, screamed at him running over and said, "What the hell are you doing? Get off my set." Well, what did I do? I was just wrapping a cable. You don't do that. It's so bad for cables. You'll learn very quickly how to do the over-under technique. So you get a nice clean roll of the cable so that it doesn't get pinched or bind. But we'll talk about that more. But we use XLR cables into our microphones. Even when we use the lavaliers, they have an adapter that goes into an XLR so they can plug into the F8. As you notice right now, you can see that we have, because the microphone is pointed at me, we're getting my levels. You can see just channel 1 is turned on. If I have more XLRs, more mic inputs, I will turn on other channels and more of them will open. I can scroll through the menu and get a 1, 2, 4, 8, 6, 10, and 12. So I can see as many mics as we want to input. I said 12 because there are 2 minis and other types of inputs, so we can record multiple things at the same time. So the levels I wanted to say, ideally for dialogue, we want to keep them in the light green to yellow range. The darker green, if it's not high enough, sometimes the level can be too low. Then we have to up the gain in post, and then we hearing all kinds of the bad stuff. So we want to keep I don't know if you can see this at home, but as I'm talking, I'm a little bit into the green and a little bit into the kind of the orange. When I get too loud, it starts to get red and you got to be careful. If it goes all the way, it doesn't, it has a limiter so that it doesn't distort too much, but it also changes the quality of the recording. So we definitely want to try to stay out of the red. But also the red will peak at times, and you can see, and I just need to turn it down. Ideally, you do sound checks before each take, and then minor changes during the take, because if you churn something down, I remember I had one audio mixer, we were doing these scenes where there were gunshots, and every time the audio person was anticipating the gunshot, he turned it way down and then turned it back up, and you could hear the sound quality change, and any lines in between were just unusable. So ideally you get a safety. You have one mic that mics the gun and another mic that mics the voice, and then you keep the level really low for the gunshot and higher for the dialogue or any other sounds. So if you're afraid of peaking, add another mic. We try to have 2 or 3, 4 booms at all the time when we're recording, and we have tons of lavs. And the college just bought 3 more, so the college will have 4 and I have 10, I think. So plenty of lavs. Yeah. So things that I'm forgetting. Emrys, things I'm forgetting about the F8. Yeah.
Jamming.
Yeah, so, again, we talked about the red camera last week. And the red camera is great. For recording video, it's an amazing piece of equipment, but it doesn't record audio very well. Even if you plug in an external mic, and you can, it does not do nearly as well as the Zoom at recording audio. So what we want to do is record audio on our mixer, the F8, and then we record the video on the camera. Now, what's the problem if you record audio on one device and video on something else? Yeah, well, your job will have to be to sync them. Now, in the old days with film, when they, crank the film, they actually used the slate so that they could get the slate, and they could visually see the slate close and then get the peak, the sound peak. And if you want to hear that, you can see on the F8. Can you see this at home? Yeah, I think you can. But there is a peak. And then when you edit on hopefully Final Cut, but possibly Premiere if you're poor and a loser, but I'm just kidding. Or DaVinci Resolve is great. But if you are editing at home, you will see these peaks and you know right where they are. I can go right to the peak, go over, and then I'll listen to the second AC, say scene 5, take 4, and then I can look at this when we hit record. The slate is always the first frame. I can look at that and know that I'm the audio recording and the video recording are the same, and then I can sync them up. So that makes it easy. A lot of editing software like DaVinci Resolve and Final Cut, you can click the the audio and video files, click sync, and it will automatically sync it for you based on sound waves. But the other thing that we do is we use time code. So if you can see this image right now, I'm gonna zoom in, and you should see this at home. It looked kind of blurry. There's time code running. Whenever this is on, it's producing its own time code. And so is the red. But they're not necessarily the same. So what we have to do is jam the time code. So we have to go from the Zoom to the slate, which is a digital slate, holds a time code, and the slate to the camera. And that once we jam them all, now we know that the time code on the F8 is the exact same as the time code on the red. And what we can do is then tell Final Cut or DaVinci, match all files with the same time code. And a click of a button, all the audio files match up with all the video files. So it speeds things up. It also makes sure that there's no slight variation or whatever. Or it doesn't have to take the time for your computer to process. It just does it automatically. So now, how do we start that process of jamming audio? Where do you think we would begin? Some of you, I know it, but those of you don't, where do you think we would begin? We have the camera, slate, and the Zoom, the audio recorder. Where do you think we start the slate time code process? Anybody? Okay, Emrys, tell us.
So first you plug the slate into the F8 and you jam it with the F8.
Why?
Because the F8 has a better time code system. It doesn't.
Because you can put the slate into the red and go in reverse. But we always start with the audio recorder. I'm not going to test this, by the way, but I could turn this on and leave it on for a month, and it would be perfect time code. There would be no slippage or anything at all. This is a master machine at keeping time code. Cameras, not so much. There can be 2, 3, 4, 5 frames in a day. So oftentimes they'll rejam after lunch. They'll power down and rejam after lunch. But we start with the audio recorder, our F8, then transmit it onto the slate, and then use that to go to the red to make sure they're all the same. And then after 5, 6 hours, it's sometimes good to, you don't have to touch the F8, but you can then rejam with the slate and then rejam with the camera. So we start the jamming process with the audio recorder. And to do that, you simply go into, there's a button right here, menu, and we scroll down to time code, and the scrolling button, if you push enter, there you scroll down to jam, and when you have jam on, you just have to push this button. There is, I don't have the slate today, but the slate goes to the SDI port on this. You go out on the F8 into the slate, and then you hit enter, and then you check to make sure the time code on the F8 is the same as the slate, and you do the same process on the red. Then I just simply go menu, 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 and I'm back to where I started. So a lot of you, anyone who's going to mix will probably need to do that process. Oh, the other thing I didn't mention is you need to listen. And we always keep at least 2 sets of headphones in the audio case. There's one that has the 1/4 inch, that's the larger headphone port. It's on this side, so the right side if you're facing, and there it right here is the headphone jack. There's another one here, but it's for a mini. So we have the 1/4 inch and then the mini. The 1/4 inch headphone, there is a controller for volume, gain control here for this headphone. The other one is set digitally, and sometimes people set it really low because they don't want to hear some of the noise. So you have to adjust that, but you can control the volume. If someone is harder of hearing, they can turn up the headphone gain, and or something's real quiet, they can turn it up to make sure they're hearing things correctly. Be aware that the mixer has got this on their head, and when someone suddenly screams or someone bangs the microphone, tell me how much it hurts, Emers.
Why? Don't do it.
Yeah, so be aware, because very sensitive mics going right to the ears of the mixer, and it can be extremely painful. I recommend pull off the headphones so you don't have to deal with that. But boom operators, be careful, especially setting down the microphone, not only because they can break, but also you can be torturing your partner who's over mixing. Other things that I'm thinking I've forgotten about.
It takes.
Yeah, okay. So by the way, to record is simply this button here. And then when the director yells cut, we don't push that button again, which a lot of students do instinctively. We go to stop. If you hit the record button again, essentially it pauses it. And then if you hit record again, it starts recording, and it's still one take. So there's a pause in it, but it's one take. And then when you take all your audio, I had someone do that once. All they did was hit record and then pause and record and pause. At the end of the day, there was one audio recording. And I said, what happened? And I was hitting record, and I realized that then how do you match up files? It's one long 3-hour-long audio file, and trying to match that was an absolute nightmare.
You hire an editor, assistant editor. What do you do? Just give them-
Yeah. Somebody you hate, who you want to. Yeah, so it's record and stop. And that creates, next time you hit record, it creates a new file. And if you have a good mixer, there tends to be, if you're gonna have 10 times you hit record on the camera, you're gonna be 10 times you hit record, and then they're very easy to match up. Oftentimes, I don't know how other editors do, but Final Cut keeps them together so that it'll be a video file next to an audio file all the way down, and so they're easy to find. A dead take, sometimes the AD will say, roll audio, and then there's an issue of some kind. Okay, cut. Now that means that we have an extra audio recording, and then you want to make note because then we might have 10 video files, but 15 audio files, and that means there's a bunch of dead takes. So, if you're mixing, Emrys, what is it your job to do before every time before we leave a scene and move on to another?
Hey, group.
Room tone. You've got to get room tone. Now, maybe less of a big deal when we do it in the TV studio because we have access to this anytime we want. And my house, I can always record room tone at my house. But last weekend, we filmed in a truck. We filmed on a boat at a lake. We filmed at a room, an AA building or room. We'll never get access to that again. So if we didn't do room tone and we need it, we're screwed. We're gonna have to probably Foley and ADR that whole scene. And we shot in Rob's house, and maybe we could get back in there, but now this is gonna have my recorder is gonna have to go all the way to Hollister, and we're gonna have to find a time, and it's just a pain. Record room tone, 30 seconds to a minute. Have everyone be silent, everyone stand still, and we're just getting, if everyone listens, let's just 5 seconds of silence. There's a lot, this is a noisy room. There's a buzzing that's going on. I think it's kind of some fans or whatever, but we want to be able to have that sound. So anything else that you can think of that needs to be mentioned about audio? Yeah. It's there. So it's funny because you can film in one direction and have a sound, and film in the opposite direction. So if you were filming Tim and me right now in a scene, there might be a 2-shot of the two of us, and then there might be one of Tim and then one of me. But what happens quite often is that the sound in one direction sounds one way and the sound in the other can sound very different. Trust me, it's the case. I think of restaurants. One is facing towards the kitchen or a door, the entrance, or a loud table, or the refrigeration. I've had such awful shoots when I've shot in coffee shops. In one direction, it can sound okay, and you turn the opposite direction, and now you're getting, the buzzing of coffee machines and other things. And you need to get not only room tone, but room tone in one direction and room tone in another. So if we're stuck with that room tone of the kitchen, we can put that over the other direction or whatever. So there are times when you need it. And if we don't have easy access, you want to make sure we record it. And it's the job of the mixer, because the AD is not going to remember that. She's way too busy doing things. So yeah. Good question. Other comments about audio? The F8.
F8 of the Furious.
Nope. Okay. So I thought it would be kind of fun today to do a scene, and Tim came up with a scene that I thought would be really cool, but there's no ADR in it. Or there's one line, I think.
At the very beginning.
At the very beginning, and it's one person. So I got another one. We can go with the one Tim wanted, which was the bus fight scene from Nobody. It's an awesome scene. But I decided to do the 17 again, the classroom scene, because there's a fight in it as well, but there are multiple people speaking, and that way if people want to try ADR, They have the option. But we could show you the two scenes and decide which one we want to do. The fight scene, which is really cool, also has a bunch of punching. I mean, punch and punch. I mean, there are a lot of punching and kicking and things of the same types of noises. And if we wanted to do a portion of that, it could take us a long time. I have a list of 22 Foley sounds for the 17 again. So we
Seems
get
like the way to go.
yeah. But anyways, I'm on. Well, at home, I don't even know if we should bother doing this on Zoom.
Yeah.
How are we gonna watch the scenes?
Where do you have the scene on YouTube?
No, I have it.
You can share your screen at least to show them, but. I mean, you can call the Zoom over.
Well, let me show it. It's on the class page, but here is the 17 again scene. I'm not gonna put it on the big screen yet, so you guys actually need to get it off your butts and move so you can see my screen. Don't be lazy. Come over here and watch.
Never heard
This is the scene I was thinking that we could do.
Is that we prepare you for safe sex now. So please take one and pass it out.
Oh, geez. Guy.
I have these. You don't need these?
And give one to Mark.
No, you know, he's right. He's right. I don't need one. You know why? You know why I don't need one? Because there's no one that I'm in love with. It's called making love, isn't it? Maybe I'm old fashioned, but I think that means that you do it with someone you love. And preferably when you're married. You know, when you're ready to take that love and turn it into a baby. Because that's what love is. It's that first moment when you hold your baby girl. And you didn't know that anything could be so small or so delicate, and you feel that tiny heartbeat, and you know that you couldn't love anything more in the whole world. And you hope that you can do right by that little girl and always be there to catch her when she falls, and that nothing ever hurts her, not a broken arm or a bad dream or broken heart.
I don't even want these, just take it. There you go. Oh.
Great, fine, wonderful. More for me. Now I got enough for the whole weekend.
Yeah, we got it.
That's it.
Yeah.
So,
I've never seen that movie.
Oh, really?
Mm-mm.
So,
Is that his daughter is the girl?
yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Because Chandler's in his body, right? Matthew Perry.
Matthew Perry is the
With-
father and switches place with, or he actually doesn't switch place. He goes back in time, not in time. It's his high school
Oh,
self.
he becomes,
His-
okay.
His high school
All right,
self.
it's not a Freaky Friday. He
No, no,
becomes a
no.
young version
Yeah,
of himself.
Yeah.
Okay.
By the way, one thing we forgot, windsock, yes. So any kind of wind movement whatsoever will be picked up by microphones, and so we use the windsock, which just simply slides over the shotgun mic, and now it can be extremely windy, and we can still get nice, clean
What's the
audio,
other name for it?
Dead cat.
which is a stupid name, Dead Cat. But yes, technically, this is a dead cat. Any other questions at home? Nope, Dylan. Okay, well, if you have anything about audio, don't hesitate to contact Tim or me. And, okay, thank you. Bye.